Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Hi, my name is Alan. I'm an alcoholic. And I'm sober today by the grace of God and the principles of Alcoholics Anonymous. And it's a privilege to be here. I would like to thank George for asking me. Just to let him know that I speak the language. I don't know what a New Yorker would do with an R if it bit him. I don't know, unless it came after a vowel. You know, it's just. And thank you very much, Greg, for your talk and for your friendship. This is. Every meeting I go to, I'm just aware of how lucky I am to be sober today. I wasn't the world's worst drunk. I was a common garden variety. You know, there's not a jail in my story yet, and a bunch of things I didn't do. I didn't get tickets yet. I got it. Oh, well, yeah. When I got sober the second time, I had bought a new car because I was able to, because I was sober and I was employable. And I bought a new car when I was sober the first time, and I would drive it down Sepulveda Boulevard, you know, up over the hill. And you can get it up to 100 as you come down around the curve. And I'd crank up the music and, you know, and do that. And I went out, and I would do that even a little faster. And then I got sober again. And 2 days after I got sober again, as you come down, coming south on Sepulveda past the hill, there's a big church parking lot, and they sit there with their radar gun. The police sit there with the radar guns and clock you. And you can come off the hill just coasting and go 10 miles over the limit. And I was watching it. I wanted to be a law-abiding citizen, and I just kind of let it. And I was going to 8 or 9, you know, over the limit. I get this thing, and he said, "Well, you weren't going that fast. I think you know, you can." I said, "No, wait a minute, officer." I did. I said, "If you'd caught me last week, I'd be doing hard time." Because I used to drive down here very fast, and I would appreciate that ticket because it'll remind me. And he got that look in his eye like, "Oh, Jesus." You know? Whatever will make you happy. You know, every time I'd see him after that, it was, you know, just, yeah. So I have it. I have a speeding record, and whatnot. I was given the gift of Alcoholics Anonymous. It was brought to me. I did not come seeking it. The guy that gave it to me had been my roommate in San Diego the year before, and he was a horrid drunk. He fits here. He belongs here, you know. And the fact, I mean, I figured that out because he'd do these radical changes. He's a wonderful guy, nice, witty, intelligent, fun to be around, everything. And then he would get drunk, and he had an old Volvo that was like the Scud missile of its time. It would seek out street lamps. And the look on his face was, after he'd run over, he got at least 2 street lamps with that car that I know of. I mean, and probably some more, because he didn't talk much about them. But the look on his face was, in essence, he was saying, I was just driving down the street and it must have just jumped out in front of me, one of those jumping street lamps. And I'd heard about those things, and I sympathized with him greatly. But he was different when he drank, and he called one time and said, I won't be coming down to visit. And I was in San Diego again. Actually, he would come down and we would party. We would, just carry on. He said, but I've gone to Alcoholics Anonymous. I said, good, you should. If anything I can do to help, let me know. If you want to come over and smoke some dope and talk about it, it's okay. And but anyway, I saw him like a month later, and it was a different person. Just a totally different person. We had a little thing like right out of the book where, Ebby went to Bill, and there were one guy was just bombed out of his mind, and the other guy was different. The eyes, they didn't look like all bright and cheery, but there was life in there. And there was a lot of it was very impressive. I only had 2 friends in Los Angeles, which at the time I guess was 10 million people, and 2 if you figure the thing. I'd been here for a little while, and I'm not a people I was not a people person, and and having 2, and the friend I drank with was out of town, and this guy had gotten sober, and he said, "Do you want to go to a meeting?" And the way he presented it to me was, "Why don't you come to the meeting and check it out and see if it's okay for me?" Not for me. It was that, get his ego and go, yeah, well, sure, Jim, I'll check it out for you and give you my readout. Jesus, you get embarrassed about, anyway. So I went and I lived alone, and I should have. And I drank alone, and the meeting he took me to was Brentwood on Thursday night, which was it seemed huge. It was like for me going to Dodger Stadium. I don't like crowds, and this was just huge. And they all swarmed around this guy because he was new, he was into it, he was grabbing on to it, and he knew them, and they, and it was just, and I couldn't see anything wrong. I didn't see any, liars, cheats, or thieves, it was really, it was kind of neat. I was starting to get a little jealous, and the guy who talked was a used car dealer from Oxnard, who when he drank thought he was Attila the Hun. And I thought, there was another thing that happened. I heard a sound that I had not heard for months, and that was my own laughter. And I was laughing hysterically. Along with everybody else. This wasn't just me in the middle of a theater going, This was, everybody was laughing. And so I felt kind of good about that. At least I'd found the loony bin or whatever. And then the prayer, I'd always had I had not been trained in a church or anywhere, but I'd always, my grandfather was a missionary. He was a missionary in China from 1910 to 1948. And so I always had the feeling like I should know God better. I should be, and I never did, but my relationship with God was nil as I look back on it, but I always wanted, actually I don't know if I wanted a relationship with him or if I wanted control of the situation. I don't know. I assume I wanted control because I wanted control over everything, and like anything else I had absolutely no control. But when he said the Lord's Prayer, there was something there, it was just really something. And then I they clean up, and I was standing there watching Jim work the room, and he's very socially adept, and I was standing with my back to the wall, and I always thought if I was going to get a message, it was going to be from, John Wayne or Owen or somebody would come over and go, well, Pilgrim, here's the message, and this guy that was not all that impressive and anything else, he just came over, he kind of talked, he didn't talk like this exactly, but I can't imitate him, so I'll just, and you weren't there, so you don't know. He said, now, are you an alcoholic? And I said, no, I'm with him, he's an alcoholic. And he said, well, do you drink? And I said, yes, I do. And he said, well, have you ever had any problems? Now, see, what he started to do was ask all those questions that I, as an alcoholic, did not want to hear. And it was like holding a cross up to a vampire. Third question, and I'm visualizing him dead in my driveway. It got down to, have you tried to quit? And I said, no, I never have. He said, well, could you? And I said, well, I suppose I could if I really wanted to. And he said, why don't you then? And then at that day, it wasn't just dead. There were 4 sets of tracks. I had obviously run over him this way and come back, and he was still there. So he handed me the 20 questions, and I went home and I resolved that I would not drink that night. He explained something about one day at a time, and I proceeded to hound my friend who had. I think I caught the disease of alcoholism from Jim. I'm not sure. It's either that or that little bit of Irishness that's in me. I mean, you had one Irish speaker, and God knows George. I think it's an Irish. I don't know if but I'm sure I caught it from somewhere, and I'll blame the Irish in me. So I hounded Jim. I called him very early in the morning. Jim was not an early riser by trade. Jim liked to sleep in, I think, and he had little things like you'd go over to his apartment, just the wreckage of his alcoholism. He had one of those plastic phones we used to have. It had a dial. Those of you who are too young to remember a dial. And I've tried to break one of those phones. I have tried, and they don't break very easily. And his phone was in 3 pieces with a wire, from the earpiece to the thing. And I said, Jim, what happened? And he said, it broke. And anyway, he started taking me to all the meetings that he had gone to, and we found others, and we got very active. We'd do the Monday night Mulholland, and Tuesday 2+2, Wednesday night somewhere, Thursday night Brentwood, Friday night we'd drive down to Laguna. And we went to meetings, and I was not drinking at this guy who would, can you drink anymore? And so I was staying sober at him for 30 days, and I went back, and he wasn't there. And somebody else said, why don't you try for 60? And that's how it started. Now, going into it, I had better admit that I did not get into the program for all the. I hadn't surrendered yet. I had no idea about it. I was able to hang on, just being a fringer for 2.5 years, and it was always a contention of mine that if things got bad enough, I could drink again. And life being what it is, sometimes things happen, and to me, it was a business thing that happened. I remember it, and I didn't. I had resolved not to drink. There are drugs in my story. It was part of my. When I was in San Diego, I was raised to not drink. I was raised to hate drinking because my father drank and beat my mother, and she didn't like it much. And she raised my brother and I to hate drinking, and there was a divorce when I was 4, and so there was never any it was a bad thing. Don't want to do that, you'd be just like Daddy. And lo and behold, my first drink was like a quart of wine, and I had it in about 15 minutes. And then the next week I had a quart of wine and a quart of beer in about a half hour. And I saw nothing wrong with this. It felt like something was right. Something was, everything was good. And but then it turned on me. This is when I turned 21, I could start drinking all the time, because I could go buy it, and I bought a case of half-gallon wine things, and along with it, just to get me through the days until the weekends came and you could really drink. And I had a motorcycle at the time, and I could put 25 miles on a 12-mile trip just by weaving back and forth. And I am horrible with directions. I have the sense of direction of a World War II Italian scout. And so, but I got concerned because I was doing these things that I had been raised to not do. All of a sudden it hit, but I would just drink until that thing hit, and then that would leave pretty quick, and I would probably need another. I just started drinking, and I'm only 21, and I was bothered by it, and I was in San Diego. I was working in Balboa Park, and this guy that was working there too came up and said, "What's the matter?" And I said, "Drinking. I don't know what to do about it." And he said, "Do you want to quit?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, here, smoke some of this." And so for a week, I became a pure dope smoker. And then I remembered God gave me two hands, and I could drink with one and smoke with the other. And that was as long as I stayed a pure dope. I'm not that mythical character. The pure alcohol, I have the disease of alcoholism and the craving for more. And I was just using it as a cure. I also used marijuana to quit smoking. I just can't remember for how long. Yeah. Anyway, so I'd always resolved that if anything got bad enough, I could go out. And when you're not in the program, when you're not involved, when you're not working with people, when you're not involved in the meeting, helping some way, committed somewhere, life goes on, and I took it personally, this thing that happened, and I said, "That's it. I'm out of here." And I went and I borrowed a joint from a friend of mine, one joint, went home, smoked half of it, read Sherlock Holmes, woke up the next morning, and bought 2 pounds. And I stayed out for 6 months. And it quit working, and I realized the only thing that never let me down as far as getting me where I needed to be to create that psychic change that I needed to go on living was booze. And I realized that I'm an alcoholic, because that was next. And it was next big time. So I came back, and at least without that doubt. Now I was able to stay around still on the fringes, and I don't recommend this. I was talking to Alan before the meeting, and I'm impressed with people who come in and take hold, and not that they skyrocket to stardom, but you can tell somebody who is working the program and somebody who is not working the program. Somebody who is involved and is doing these things, you will see the results. You will see them go through hard times. They will go through them with dignity and with faith. It just happens because they know people that are there for them. They know prayer. They know God is in their life. It's been demonstrated long enough. I had none of that because I was just going, "Oh, hi, how you doing? Yeah, right. Oh, not drinking today. Oh," I was like a poster sticker. I guess I would have qualified for a member of the Platte River Speakers Group. The Platte River is about a mile wide at the mouth and about 6 inches deep. And I had nothing, but I came back. I was able to stay not drinking for 7 years, okay? And then it started happening again. Life started going on again, and I felt it coming on again. And I was fortunate enough. I go to this meeting on Wednesday nights that has been very good for me. I've met many wonderful people there. There are a lot of wonderful people at a lot of other meetings. This is where I met my guys. I saw people going through some really rough things, and they were going through it sober and with dignity, and they were still helping other people. They were all sponsored by one guy, and I said, that's what I need, and that's who's dishing it out, and that's what I've got to have it, or I'm gone again. And I didn't want to drink again. You know, I reached my bottom in Alcoholics Anonymous. I had it pretty good. Till I came here. Why am I here? No, I mean, I reached, you know, I've had, there's a guy named Eric who says to the newcomers, you only think you know what pain is. He said, you have barely scratched the surface. And I found that to be true, but I got this sponsor. His name was Ken O'Brien, and he took me through steps 1 through 9, and he took me through them like he loved the program, like he had been given them by his sponsor, and he was not going to put up with any of my cuteness, anything like that. He said, I won't ask you to do much, but when I ask you, do it or find another sponsor. He had a lot of people that wanted him to sponsor him. And he only took me 1 through 9 because he figured a good sponsor, like a good parent, should become less and less necessary. My dependence must not be on him. It must be through the steps on a higher power. You know, and so we went 1 through 9, and we had our little argument, and we broke it. But he did that with a lot of people. And then 6 months later, we became friends again. And but as a result of that, as a result of what he did for me and what I tried, you know, you have a sponsor like that, and you try and please him. I tried anyway. I wanted to be his most perfect sponsee, you know, and I'd be there. Now, he would do things like, he said, give me a list of the meetings you're committed to going to. And I gave him my list. Then he started showing up at those meetings. He took sponsorship very seriously. You know, I mean, he would do that, and then he would say, where were you if I wasn't there? And I'd better have a reason, you know, or whatnot. But as a result of that, I started being where I was going to be when I said I was going to be there. I started taking commitments. Before he would let me read my 5th step, he had said weeks before, call central office, get a phone commitment. Right before we sat down for the 5th step, he said, by the way, did you call downtown to the central office? I said, oh, Ken, that's in process. I'm going to, as soon as he said, there's a phone, do it now. We'll do this when you do that. And he left the room. I called up and I got a phone commitment. I started training on the thing. Then we did my 5th step, and I did like Greg did. I went home, thought about what I had done, if I'd forgotten anything that needed doing. And the thing about an honest program is, I'm not saying I'm the most honest person in the world, but I know where my program has holes in it, and I know who to go see about it, you know. And I told Ken everything. I told him everything, and I knew in my mind, I mean, everything that I knew. There was no corner left unswept, you know, and it was a thorough, and I can't say fearless, because I was nervous about doing it, but it was a thorough inventory. And I did the things, and then I got this commitment to work the phones. And that's, I like doing that because it's anonymous. Nobody knows who you are. And you can't, none of it, you know, I mean, it's very easy to be here and speak. I'm going to be gone in 20 minutes, and you're going to forget it, and I'm going to go, see what the score of the ball game is, and I'm going to hope I haven't damaged AA and everything. It's easy to be here. I can't see. I don't have my glasses on, but on the phone, some people call and they just want to know where a meeting is, and being alcoholics, they want to know yesterday, and or the occasional call you get where somebody needs help, and that's the call that makes my day, where somebody has it, and you put together a 12-step call, and this person is going to be taken care of, or at least shown the program by the person you put them in contact with. It is magical. And it's wonderful, and you sit there and you go, okay, God, please take care of this person, and you put them up. And you also learn that not everybody on the 12-step list is worth a damn. No, can't do, oh God, I've got golf day today, got to go out, or what, you find a lot of people are busy, they're sober, they have jobs. You find, there was one guy I could always call, and it wouldn't be, where it was just, let me get a pencil. Got a 12-step call for you. Let me get a pencil. Boom, Jim Tapia. And he was into doing that. There's one Jim Tapia. Jim Tapia just died a week ago Sunday. 2 weeks ago Sunday. This was one of his 12. I call him. There was a lady with a wheelchair, who was the one who called, who just wanted to be shown around her area, just, have somebody with her while she figured out where she was going. She didn't want to depend on anybody, but she just wanted somebody there for that couple of hours while she scoped the place out and where were the meetings and everything else. I called a lady named Patty Higginbottom in the list, like this. And she said, well, I just need somebody, and she was in Jim's area. Said, well, I'm in a wheelchair myself, but I sure know where the meetings are, and I can tell this person where they are, and he can do that. And I said, well, I'll try and find somebody to do that for you. And I called Jim. Let me get a pencil. And he showed up, and he helped this lady go around, and it turned out, in talking to them, she was from Montana, and Jim only knew one person from Montana, and who happened to live right across from the lady that he was helping, and so that happened, and he was just overjoyed of being at service, and I was overjoyed to have put the thing together, and I called O'Brien. I said, Kenny, you won't believe what happened. And Ken said, and Jim said, just give me a pencil, and Patty Higginbottom, there's a wheelchair going around. It was all like this. And it was great. And and Ken said, yeah, that's quite a story. That's really wonderful. Tapia calls O'Brien.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
Tapia says, oh, Kenny, had a good thing happen today. Ken said, yeah, you met a lady named Patty Higginbottom, and you were around this, and it was just, it's a good story. And they were maybe it's not as good as I thought, but we were all excited because it was all program stuff, and it was all designed to help this one person, and everybody was willing, and it worked, and that's what doing the phones does. There's a guy who's still around. I took his call when he called, and I used to go to a meeting Monday nights at Palms Park, and Ken went there. Fred Ellis used to go there, and a guy named Gary E. and Steve B. and a bunch of the guys, friends of mine, went there. And I was at central office, and the guy called, his name's Delbert, and he said, well, I'm in Hollywood, and where are some good meetings? I said, well, and I started telling him the Hollywood meetings, and he said, no, wait a minute. Where do people go who want to be sober? And I said, people who want to be sober, if you're dead serious, if you want industrial strength sobriety, is that what we're talking about? He said, yeah, basically that's it. And I said, well, people who do that go to Palms Park about 6:30. They walk in the room, and if they're fortunate enough to see a guy named Ken O, they talk to him, and then they talk to a guy named Gary E, and then you talk to Steve B. And then when it comes time to share, you say who you are and what you're doing there. And you know, they'll help you. And that's the kind of place I know that you want to go if you're dead serious about being sober. He showed up. He did it. He met Gary. Gary became his sponsor, still his sponsor today. And the guy is, you know, gangbusters. It's fun to watch. It's a gift to watch somebody else. It's a gift to watch somebody else get it, because I know it works, and I know it works for me. If I have my doubts about it, I can look at it working in you, and I can go, yeah, okay, all I have to do is keep doing what I've been doing with faith. I mean, some of this stuff makes no sense to do. I do not know why it works, but I definitely know how it works, and beyond that, I know it works, because I'm not drinking today. You know, and I'm in a room full of people who are not drinking today. A lady with 30 days is not drinking today. And Tapia made a big point of that. Well, the last time I saw him at a meeting, he was, he had a lot of things he could have talked about. But what he remembered was his first day sober. And because it was his first day sober, because it had been such a struggle to get that first day sober, because he had tried and tried and tried and could not stay sober. One day, he came here, he did what these people say, and he had one day sober. And that still, after 23 years, brought him to tears. Because it was that, you know, it meant that much to him. And it meant that much to him to see somebody else do it and to pass it on to somebody else. O'Brien had so many great lines. One of them was, my program was so huge I couldn't get it out the meeting room door, you know. And these guys have carried it out, and they practice it in all their affairs. And it's an exciting thing for me to see. I have a family now. I don't live alone anymore. Sometimes my wife wishes I did. My children, I have 3 children. 2 are mine, and we're all kind of, you know, I got my son and wife when he was 5, and he has taught me a lot about growing up. And they have never seen me drunk, but they have certainly seen me when I have needed a meeting. I tend to do the least amount possible. I mean, I do 3 or 4 meetings a week, but I never miss my meetings. And I talk to 2 or 3 people a day, 4 people a day sometimes. It depends. I pray every morning. I start out by saying the first 3 steps, just to remember that I have taken them, to remember that I'm powerless, to remember that I believe in a higher power, that I have come to. It's taken so much time, you know, just to have the concept of God that I do have, but I do have one, and I believe that he has my interest at heart, and I believe that he has all of our interests. You know, I believe he's big. A friend of mine, Jeffrey, has a thing about, so this God guy, is he big or what? You know, and boy, have I got an entity for you. We try, you know, getting back to the trying to control God. You want that prayer that works. You know, gee God, if I had that new Maserati, I would definitely take 3 newcomers a week to a meeting. You know, it seems it must be your will. But Jeffrey's thing was, mine was more of the begging variety. His he took the AA slant on it. Gee God, when something was going wrong, gee God, how am I supposed to explain this to a newcomer so it sounds good? And he tried that, and then he said, well, gee God, it sure looks shitty to me. I tried the one, and as low as it got, and the lowest I've ever personally heard, as far as trying to get some, just to make him feel just a little guilty for me and go, okay, Alan, you can hear. Mine was, gee God, and you got to be able to squeeze a tear out if you can. I'm going to be laughing too much to do it tonight, but gee God, I wouldn't do this to you. And it didn't work either. It was good, but it didn't work. I don't know. There is such a power here. And I still have, I get glimpses of it, and just enough so that I don't suffer burnout, because I'm sure that if he really wanted to dose me with it, he could, but just enough to keep me on the right trail. And when I'm in, there is a thing that somebody used to talk about. I think it was a Ken again, about when you are in the wrong place. It's like God is encouraging you again to search for Him, to continue the search. And Fred Ellis used to say something about taking just the unrelated action. If I called him one time, I called him one time and said, Fred, I have this problem. I wanted, it was time to snow your sponsor, to ask him the question that even a guru like Fred could not answer. Fred, I have this problem. This is going on at work, this family thing, and it's all crashing in at once, and oh, it's so unique and so horrible. And Fred said, I don't have an answer for your question. I had him. He said, but I imagine if you go to a meeting and you find a newcomer and you discuss your problems with him, perhaps you can both come to a solution for your problem. This was like, and the other thing was I heard one night a guy describe how things were so bad that he was going to go in the bedroom and pray for a miracle. Sounded like a good idea. So I called O'Brien. I said, Ken, I'm going to go pray for a miracle. And he said, be careful. You may go to bed sober tonight, And I have to always remember that is the miracle. We're sober today. I am sober today. And as long as I can maintain my gratitude for that, and remember that it can disappear like that. And it is something to be cherished, and the only way I can keep it is to pass it on. And as best I can. And sometimes I've seen the backs of more newcomers than you can shake a stick at. They go, hi, you really want this program? And I get this. But I'll keep trying. I'll keep trying. God has been there for me every time I have needed Him. God is always there for me. It's just my job to get up and find Him. And the way I usually find Him is right out there with us, and it works, and I thank you so very much for being here, and thank you for listening, and thank you for asking me, Julie.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right, but I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.